Hi, I'm Nikaj. I'm sitting here in the Coal Harbor room of the Pan Pacific in Vancouver with Amir Adnani, the chairman of gold mining. And Amir, you know, it's funny, we met a couple of years ago just down the street at another hotel here, and your company wasn't even called gold mining then, it was called Brazil Resources.
I remember that meeting.
Quite a lot has changed since then. So you've expanded beyond Brazil, both northward and southward, as you continue to execute on your strategy of accumulating ounces of gold and other minerals in the ground. And I thought it was time for an update to sit down and see how the strategy's been going, because it's been paying off quite well. So can you tell me more about how you're executing this land backing strategy?
It's one where you have to be disciplined, and you have to also sometimes be able to educate and explain to investors how this type of strategy creates value for shareholders. I was recently traveling, and I almost had to remind an audience, a room full of investors that I was presenting to about the company, that sometimes they are the reason or the demise of some of the companies that we're buying at the bottom of the cycle, because investors in the junior resource sector have become so accustomed to believing that the only way to create value is to punch holes in the ground. Well, when you have a bear market and you take $1 off of your balance sheet and put it into the ground, whether you get good results or not, even if you get stellar results, if the market is not in the right mood because sentiment is weak, you're not going to get the right reward felt in your share price. You're not going to be able to raise money at progressively higher levels. You're diluting. And you can really destroy value and destroy great deposits by doing this in bear markets. And what we wanted to do was take advantage of this dynamic in the resource market, going back over 6 years ago, or almost 7 years now with gold mining, where when you see this predictable downturn, the markets are so predictably cyclical when it comes to commodities, right? Over 20 years, we see the bull markets, bear markets, bull market, bear market. So the bottom of the cycle, when you're in bear market territory, mathematically, you can acquire drilling that has been done for a fraction of what it costs to go drill a new hole. You can buy a resource in the ground for a fraction of what the same resource would be worth if the market was in bull market territory. And so in a way, this is really not a new concept. Many people before us have implemented this model successfully. You look at companies like Silver Standard, even Rand Gold was founded on the back of buying assets at the bottom of the cycle and then building those assets out. Silver Standard did the same thing, Lumina Copper. Some of the biggest names in the resource sector have recognized the benefit to take advantage of the cycles to create shareholder value. So to answer your point, you also, to get back to your point, the Brazil focus for us was initially important, because you also just can't go out there and buy things randomly. There has to be a focus on specific jurisdictions. And after 7 years, we've managed to now have established ourselves in northern Brazil in Pará State, in the central Cocoa Belt in Colombia, in Alaska, and in every area we've created large district scale opportunities. It doesn't happen overnight, but you need one thing to go in your favor to make this kind of model a reality: a prolonged bear market. And we've had a prolonged bear market now since 2012, when the TSX Venture started to break down and the gold prices started to break out. Since 2012, in the last 7 years, we've had probably, 6 good months last year between the Brexit event and Trump's victory. 6 good months in the context of 7 years. That's the ideal environment that we needed to have at gold mining to execute the kind of strategy that we're talking about.
Well, so many people are fearful during times like that. You know, they're frozen, they're deer in headlights, they don't want to act. And you've been contrarian in that respect, and you've done really well in executing these acquisitions at a time when no one is looking, right? Investors are fearful. The idea is to buy low and sell high, but often human psychology just makes us do the opposite of that. How have you been able to gut check yourself, or how have you been able to say, now is the time to buy? We can do this with minimal dilution. We can head in here while asset prices are cheap. How do you gut check yourself for that?
Well, first of all, I've seen this strategy play out in the uranium sector. As you know, with Uranium Energy Corp, where I've spent the last 12 years developing, we've had even a longer, harder kind of bear market in uranium. And in 2010, for example, right before the run-up in uranium prices, we managed to acquire, at the bottom of the cycle in uranium prices, assets from Uranium One, a big player back then, that helped transform us into a producer. And we were able to buy, again, for cents on the dollar, assets that allowed us to join the exclusive club of uranium producers. So I've seen firsthand what it can do in terms of value creation in the resource market when you do buy at the bottom of the cycle. And in the resource business, I feel more than any other business, depending on what you pay for an asset, you can either destroy a lot of value or create a lot of value. So part of the gut check has really been having seen and lived through another commodity with another company and executing that. And by the way, we're still executing that with UEC because, as you know, we've had a real prolonged bear market in the nuclear side. Maybe to some extent is also about aligning yourself. So part of the gut check isn't just your own team and your own board and having like-minded people as the team, but having like-minded people in terms of the stakeholders. So you look at some of the long-term backers that we've had at gold mining, people like Rick Rule and Sprott Asset Management, people like Marion Katusa and Doug Casey, other large institutional investors throughout the world that over the years we have laid out our vision and our strategy to them, but then we've gone and executed. And we've managed to demonstrate through the combination of vision and execution, and the snowball effect of building a larger critical mass, and today having one of the largest resource bases throughout the Americas for any pre-production company. It's that alignment with like-minded stakeholders and large stakeholders who get you to a point where I think you have the right platform to be able to carry on. And that to us has been a very important part of this whole strategy, is the shareholder base, the asset base, and then sort of having that commitment and that vision to just be very disciplined, to keep taking advantage of the last thing being the cycle. If you have that sort of long-term cycle, as I talked about, then all the stars align and you can really take advantage of this concept.
So you talk about creating value for shareholders by buying at the bottom of the cycle or the bottom of the market, and clearly the strategy has paid off. If you look at your stock performance over time compared to some of its peers or to some of its benchmarks like the GDXJ ETF, you've clearly outperformed. Can you speak to that?
Well, after having been a public company and after 6 years, it does become an interesting case study almost to put our share price performance next to some of the indices that you talked about and just say, well, look, Amir keeps talking about this acquisition model. Well, how does it work out? How does it translate to share price performance? And today, if you look at our share price performance from our IPO in the middle of 2011 to now, we have outperformed the TSX Venture, which is a very good barometer of how we function as a junior resource company, the GDXJ as a junior gold ETF, even the S&P 500. And that's a remarkable concept to think about after such a extended period of time. But more importantly, between 2012 and 2015, when the TSX Venture lost almost 90% of its value, our shares were practically flat during that time.
That's great. And
last year, as you know very well, when the market did take off, we outperformed. We were the second best performing stock or mining stock on the TSX Venture, made the TSX 50 list. So we've demonstrated that we have quite a bit of downside protection when things are bad, and we're making accretive acquisitions as opposed to dilutive ones. And when the market turns around, there's so much leverage with the size of resource that we've accumulated now that you see that immediate outperformance on the way up. So look, it's an exciting concept. We have a lot of money as insiders tied up in this company ourselves. Insiders in gold mining today still own close to 25% of the company, which is again very meaningful. So we feel very passionate about the vision and the model. We've been at it for 7 years. We have a lot of our own capital tied up, and it's an exciting time. It's exciting to have that window still be open to continue to grow the business.
Well, it certainly is an exciting time. We just talked about the outperformance, and the market rewards execution, right? You've laid out a strategy, you've executed on that strategy with minimal dilution, and you've done so at quite frankly, a rapid pace. So just in the past couple of months here, you've made some acquisitions that I've covered and I've written about, and the first is one down in Colombia. You were able to consolidate the Mid-Cauca Belt by acquiring Belhaven and their La Mina project, which is one of the highest grade projects down there. and you've also got the management team that came with it. Can you explain to me more about why you made that acquisition and why the addition of Belhaven's management team to your team is so valuable?
Well, part of what we wanted to accomplish in Colombia was very much the same kind of strategy that we had in Brazil, right? We went into Brazil and it started with having local partners and an understanding of a specific area within Brazil, in Pará State, where we were able to just put together 4 different projects with 43-101 resources and build a strong portfolio there. In Colombia, it was the same thing. It was leveraging our partner in South America, Brazil Invest, who's the oldest investment bank and investment house in Latin America, with investments in Brazil and Colombia. One of our board members lives in Colombia, and in addition to having a strategic financial partner, having some in-country know-how, we felt it was a jurisdiction we wanted to make a real move in. Next came identifying opportunities where it wasn't just going to be one acquisition, but that a sequence of acquisitions can create a district. So we have to go back and look at the acquisition we made late last year of the Titiribi project, which gave us our first kind of toehold into Colombia, into the Central Coca Belt. And now with the acquisition of Belhaven, we have created really one of the largest district plays in Central Colombia in this very exciting gold, copper, porphyry belt, the Mid-Coca Belt. And I say it's exciting, and I've got proof that demonstrates that other companies as big as Newmont thinks it's exciting. Just in the last few weeks, Newmont has now invested a substantial amount of money, over $100 million, into Continental Gold. AngloGold Ashanti has 2 or 3 different development stage projects in this area. IM Gold has entered into various exploration projects here, and IM Gold now becomes a shareholder of our company because they were a shareholder of Belhaven. So I love the fact that there's real regional activity in this Mid-Coca Belt, and that we now have, as a result of our 2 acquisitions, consolidated what becomes one of the largest district plays in Central Colombia, where we have 2 different 43-101 reports, totaling almost 12 million ounces of gold equivalent resources in all categories, and 10 different drill-ready prospects within our land package that we can follow up on, and we plan to follow up on. And you look at some of the people that also join us as a result of this acquisition of Belhaven. The CEO of that company, Dr. Paul Zhang, who was the head of exploration for BHP Billiton in South America, sold his last 2 junior resource companies for over $1 billion of value. And so this is a real proven individual. He becomes a member of our technical advisory board moving forward, and one of our largest shareholders moving forward. We mentioned IM Gold. So this checks many boxes. It enhances and unlocks value for a previous acquisition in Titiribi. It creates a leading district play in the Central Colombia Belt. And you look at the acquisition, the total acquisition cost of Titiribi and Belhaven has happened now for less than $30 million in stock. Belhaven and Sunward Resources, the 2 companies that we acquired, were public companies in 2012 at $1,500 or $1,600 gold. Their combined market cap was over $400 million.
And you were able to get it for? Less
than $30 million in stock. So that's the kind of difference we're talking about, that it's the same project, same geology, same rocks, but cycle. A $200 or $300 difference in the gold price, hence the cycle, can create that much of a gap and delta in the value of the asset. I love being able to do deals like this, and it's I don't think there's any other industry in the world where you can get that much of a difference in valuation just because of a $200 or $300 difference in the underlying commodity price.
Well, you've certainly been able to capitalize on it, and you mentioned the 43-101 reports. La Mina came with over 1 million ounces indicated, but there's even more that you get with that because there's potential exploration upside. So there's various deposits and zones that they have, but one called La Garucha has hardly been explored. There've been a couple holes that return mineralization, but that provides something for you to really sink your teeth into going forward.
It'll definitely be an exciting catalyst for us. It's one where we typically don't like to go and spend money at this point in the cycle to prove up resources. We'd rather buy them, but this is an exception. The 6 last holes drilled there in 2013 before the company ran out of money, Belhaven, were stellar results. I mean, you're talking about 270 meters of over 1 gram per ton gold and 0.13% copper. I mean, stellar results that you would want to follow up on. We feel confident this would be an area at La Gurucha that with some minimal exploration expenditures, we'll be able to establish a maiden resource there. We'll see, but these are the types of things that as we assess our portfolio, and we have a very extensive portfolio now, from time to time, we'll be able to allocate a bit of cash to enhance and increase resources organically. And with $20 million of cash on hand, no debt, we definitely also have the balance sheet where from time to time you can spend, again, $1 million or $1.5 million on a drilling program to prove up resources quickly, and so both options are there.
And speaking of extensive resource portfolio, by the way, almost a month after you acquired La Mina in Colombia, you were out with more news that you're expanding your territorial reach. You came out with these Northwestern Territories acquisitions with Yellowknife and Blue Sky. What was the thinking behind that one?
Well, Canada, especially Canada's north, has been on our radar screen for a long time. You look at the amount of money going into Canada's north between Yukon, Nunavut, and Northwest Territories by
the acquisitions of Kaminak.
Kaminak with Goldcorp, Agnico Eagle has committed over $1 billion to Canada's north in terms of their capital expenditure program. So we knew we wanted to get into this area. We just needed the right opportunity, and we found the right opportunity. And these projects that we have acquired there come with over 200,000 meters of diamond drilling. You just think about the replacement value.
How much it costs, sure.
And we're picking it up for basically 4 million shares in our company, and that's less than 4% dilution. So it's quite exciting, gets us a nice toehold into Canada's north, into Canada as a region. Low holding costs, geopolitically stable, again at a time when there's increasing interest in this region by majors and junior companies as well. So we'll have more news as well about this latest news and acquisition of these projects in the Northwest Territories. And so I expect over the next 6 months there should be quite a bit of active news flow pipeline from the combination of news in Colombia with the follow-up work we're going to do with the Belhaven acquisition, the work that we're doing with our latest acquisition in Canada, and perhaps new exciting acquisitions as the gold price continues to linger below $1,300 or so. That gives us a fantastic window to find the types of deals that we've done. And we got a 6 or 7 year track record now that shows we get deals done, and we've been executing on the vision, and the resource space keeps getting bigger. We're now in our total global resources over 11 million ounces gold equivalent in measured and indicated, and 13 million ounces inferred. That's a big portfolio.
You've got 24 million ounces of gold equivalent.
It's a resource base that can go up next to any company that is in the sort of mid-tier pre-production junior space. It's definitely one of the biggest portfolios in the Americas. The vision was to create a powerhouse, and we're definitely on our way, and we're building a very substantial company here.
You've got it. You've got 24 million ounces of gold equivalent. You've got catalysts ahead with looking at the reports and potentially drilling La Gurucha, and as you just alluded to, perhaps even more acquisitions in the near term as you continue to execute on this land banking strategy. So, Amir, congratulations to you, and congratulations to your team, and obviously to shareholders who have been along for the ride. It's been fantastic. Thanks for taking a couple minutes to update us today.
I appreciate it, Nick, and look forward to connecting with you again soon.